Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live. I am here, Jill Woodworth. I'm the host of TSC Talks. Forgot that I was actually on camera for a minute. We are live. I'm with Brooke, Alicia, and we are here to talk about parenting with individuals with challenges related to neuropsychiatric conditions like tuberous sclerosis complex, autism, other developmental disorders, where there's a large component of mental health issues that are combined with other health physical issues and tend to make things really complicated. And so we're going to talk about that and share some of our experiences with you guys. And then we're going to kind of talk about a little bit about alternative medicine and some of the things that, we've found to be useful. And I'm going to say right at the outset, we're not doctors. We're not here to treat, cure, or, medicate. We are here to share our personal lived experiences. I've been a caregiver for 24 years. I have 5 children. 3 of them are affected by tuberous sclerosis complex. So and I think Brooke has a wealth of experience as well. Your daughter is how old, Brooke?
She's almost 16.
Almost 16.
Yes.
So that's putting some time in. She's got a son, and she's had quite a few challenges herself. And Brooke also has tuberous sclerosis. So we've got a lot going on, and we want to share it so we can both give you an awareness as well as offer, some validation and support and hope. So that's what we're doing. And so I'm going to let Brooke give a little intro of herself, and then we will kind of share some of what we've been through lately. So, Brooke, why don't you just tell us who you are, even though I just did.
Okay. No, it's totally fine. So, going into this, I was diagnosed at 18 with tuberous sclerosis complex. And so at that point, I was told I'd be in the wheelchair by the age of 30. My body would fight off any fetus that if I would get pregnant. Like, it was just pretty much like, your life's over, have dogs and travel, see ya. And then as things went on, I did get pregnant. That's when I got pregnant for my daughter. I had went to hair school. I finished barely. I had to take the medical leave because my kidneys were so bad and just a lot of things. I was declining extremely quickly. And so then as time went on, like, I also had a son. I kept doing hairstyling, but I was definitely on autopilot a lot. One point in my life had 3 jobs. I'm still a hairstylist. I've been one for 17 years. And kind of what Jill said, a couple years ago, I found something that has helped my quality of life. It does not cure or medicate, does not treat. However, that's what we're here to talk about. Through our journey with brain, she had brain surgery and just different things that she struggled with. And then having a son that has no TSC, just keeping between that boundary and that balance of your life is very hard. You're put in situations you're not prepared for. You're put in situations that you could never imagine that you would have to choose. Some of our choices that we've had to make as parents, as caregivers. And so moving forward, I really look up to Jill because I look at like what she's done with her children, and I always ask her questions. So I met her, I don't even know, like, I think I met you at an event, and then we just kind of like started communicating a little bit more. And then I've been really interested because we can get into it more, but really, like, it's just been it's an ongoing thing that never ends. So we want to just share with you things that we've been through and things that have worked for us and things that have not worked for us. And I'm not saying, and we're both not saying it won't work for you. However, this is where we're at, and we're here to share it.
Yep. Thank you. That was really, really good. So I guess, one of the things that I want to say tuberous sclerosis complex is a genetic condition that causes benign tumors to grow in all the major organs of the body. And it can wreak havoc at any moment. It can also there's a range of effects. So some people are very mildly affected and might not even know they have it until they have a child with it. And, so there can be a range of effect within families. And yeah, it's complicated. And there is the mental health component is called TAND, which is tuberous sclerosis associated neuropsychiatric disorder. And it's been said, I don't know the exact statistic, but 80 to 90% of people that have TSC have some component of TAND. And that can many times be the most challenging aspect of tuberous sclerosis over time. And if you think about it, you've got a condition that affects, causes benign tumors to grow. Think about the brain, we're talking about a systemic effect. So if one part is affected, the other parts are going to be affected, whether it is shown, you can see it visibly, or it's an internal thing. And that's really challenging because a lot of our loved ones or people affected, we don't know the what's going on inside. We can't see it. And so that's hard because there's a lot of, you're open to a lot of interpretation by people that don't have a lot of information. So starting with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that happened with, or I could pick any story. I will say my son, when I moved out of my, I ended up getting divorced, and it's very hard on relationships, and I'm not going into my entire history, but uh, we may talk a little bit about that more. It wears you down, and you're watching your kids go through some really extreme things over a course of time. Anyways, I ended up moving out. My son, who was oh gosh, he was 13. He really struggled with a lot of behavior to the point where he was really unable to progress academically. We tried pretty much everything, different classrooms, medications, different specialists. And he was he was very aggressive. And so it became a situation where it was volatile. And he will tell you, he would come after me, and he would be threatening towards his sisters. And there were several occasions where I had to call emergency mental health, and I had to have him placed in psych hospitalizations. And this was, I had been through it with my older daughter, and so I knew what I was getting into. And we kind of had to draw a line in the sand with his behavior, and worked with a counselor and some in-home services. And what we ended up doing was kind of saying, if you do this one more time, we're going to, and following through. To make a long story short, he went through 2 psych hospitalizations, and they were actually 3. The first one was in a hospital, and that one was really just a holding place, and I didn't feel like it had much effect, and he wasn't given follow-up services. And then after that, he went to an acute behavioral CBAT. I don't know what the thing is for that, but it was more of a, I don't want to say laid back, but it was like in a home type setting, and there were a lot more peer connections. And there was a lot, his therapist was kind of integrated into the program, and we came in, and he was able to really connect the dots. And from there on out, his behavior, he kind of, a light bulb went on, and he became aware of how he was treating people. We filmed him. He was shown the films of himself being aggressive, and that kind of helped him turn a corner. And we're talking about a kid that's got a cognitive disability as well. So for him to be able to make that realization and start to change his behavior from the inside out, instead of, being taught at, and he had many reasons to be mad. This kid had many reasons to be mad. I kind of try to look at the whole situation and everybody's role in it, and understand that we're all just trying to do the best we can and figuring it out, and not assigning blame. And that's really painful because you're watching your kid attack you, but also why. So it was brutal putting him in those placements, but I will say that helped him turn a corner. And we've had a lot of challenges past that, but after that point, he started to own his own behavior. So that's been a success story. And I know that many of you out there, I've talked to you, I've seen your posts, I've read them. And, I know that some situations are so complicated, and, I'd say mine still is in many ways. So I'm not going to go into more stories than that, but I know that what we did might not work for you. But that's kind of where we got to the psych hospitalization point. So I'm going to let Brooke share a little bit about what she's been through recently. So take it away, Brooke.
Okay, well, thank you for that. It's not nice to hear, but it's nice to hear you're not alone, and it's nice to hear that you did get to that point where you can not always breathe, because with TSC you can't, there's always something coming up, but just that he found, hey, this is what I'm doing, I need to fix this. That's where I'm at right now. We're trying to figure out how to, if I'm going to be honest, how to keep her alive, how to keep her quality of life amazing, how to keep her healthy. And thriving in life for her. Like, what's going to make her flourish and have a purpose? And when they can't control that tan, so I wasn't really aware of tan. Having TSC my whole life, I've never dealt with that. I did have some behavioral issues when I had my kidney tumors, because my kidneys made me so toxic. I had really changed a lot. Like, I had agoraphobia, depression. I wouldn't leave the house. Like, I am not the same person today as I was. So when they were able to help me with that chemo medication, Afinitor, it has changed my life drastically, as far as like my kidneys have shrunk from 4.5 centimeters down to nothing. And so as I was healing, I was starting to recognize like what was happening. And as I was like getting better, she was definitely declining. And so then when puberty hit is kind of when it hit for us. The tan really came out. And I was like, what is this? It just kind of hits you like a bus. So just, even in September, there was kind of like, it was starting to get less, but then like when the behaviors had happened, they were extreme and I didn't know what to do.
Example of,
Yes, I'm doing that right now. So
Sorry.
Here's my example. We were boating. No, you're fine. I kind of ramble because I have TSC. So, okay. So we were boating all day long. We had like the most perfect day as a family. And then all of a sudden we're on our way home. She thinks her laptop's charged, which I don't let her have internet actually very much, because she is overstimulated and it's too much for her. And we're like, no, someone else needs to use a charger. And that's all we said. And all of a sudden my stuff gets thrown out of my car, off the side of the highway, down in the ditch. She's trying to choke me from behind. We get out of the car, we grab all my stuff. I mean, my new license plate hadn't even been put on this car, so I'm trying to find all of it because I need all the papers from the, agreement from buying the vehicle and all of that stuff. And we're like an hour and a half away from home. I'm like, how are we supposed to get home? What are we supposed to do?
Right.
In my home, we have cameras, we have locks on our doors, we have that, and we can get into how we've had to live for us. But It was such a traumatic scene. Like, I'm like, do I call the cops? I am an hour and a half away from home. What do we do? And I ended up sitting in the back seat with her and videotaping her the whole ride home, because I said, you're not going to just act like this and think that this doesn't happen. I mean, she was punching my car. She did everything she could to just avoid, like, just over me saying that someone else needed the charger. And she was at 100%. So, yeah, it was extreme. And I can talk a little bit about this recent behavior if you'd like me to.
Sure.
That kind of brought us to where we're at. So I know that she might watch some of these sometimes, so I try to watch what I say, because I know that she has brain trauma. She had brain surgery at 3. So she not also has tan, but she has the behaviors from not having that right frontal lobe, making executive decisions, impulsivity. As a normal teenager, you don't make the best decisions, but hers is just so random. And they were asking, what's her triggers? Nothing. What's warning signs? Sometimes never anything. So for us, it's just kind of like I said, it hits you like a bus. So all of a sudden, like few weeks ago, I was laying in bed. I was ready to go to bed. I did my night things that I do. I was laying in bed and I hear her come like, if you don't wake up now, I'm gonna bug you all night till you can't sleep. And I'm like, why is she even mad? Like, what is happening? So I'm like, Rain, you know what happens if you don't go to sleep? Like, just go to sleep. She wouldn't go to sleep. And then I hear something thrown in the kitchen. I have big, huge, like high top, like chairs, and she was throwing those. She got out an object and tried to hurt herself and threatened all of us. And so I decided, I'm going to take you to my dad's for a couple of days, just to kind of like, so you can calm down. I don't want to take you there because you're being bad. It's not like a privilege. We'll reassess this in a couple of days, but I don't feel safe with you here at this moment. So as we're headed there, things escalated. She got more fearful. We called a couple of different people. She admitted to them what she had done. Out of her safety, we were removing her, at the time, from the home just to families. And then they're like, we have to report this. And they're right. So Rain will say, like, I'm going to hurt myself, just like she would say, I want chocolate milk. Mm-hmm. That's how I would explain it to somebody. She throws around that threat a lot. And so I don't know where this comes from, because we don't talk like that.
My daughter had done the same
serious.
thing. Yeah.
And I could not take it serious anymore. So they said, you need to call the cops. We pulled over. Sheriffs came. She was running from them. Then she ran through my passenger side to my driver's seat. Luckily, the car was off, but we had to regretfully admit her that night to a place 3 hours away. It's COVID's going on. I can't see her. And so I was hopeful like they would keep her for a week, get her stabilized, get some group therapy, have a plan. And that's not what we were given. We were given a new med that they didn't look into that could have made her manic within a week. They took her off her other prescriptions that they didn't even really look at immediately that need to be weaned off of. And I told them, if she comes home and something happens, this is on you. I don't feel safe with her right now at my home. And I can tell you right now, I know the hardest thing before that was to have to put her through brain surgery because I didn't know if I was making the right decision to stop all those seizures and then be left with the regression, the social regression, and all the regression from that it causes. However, at that point, we had nothing to lose. And I was kind of back there, but, differently. And watching her go away in that EMS truck, when I couldn't be with her. And, I was literally like, I don't know how I functioned. It was probably, I cannot cry about it now, but it was the hardest thing I ever had to see. And it was nothing I wanted for her, but I knew that we had to do something because I didn't know what else. It's hard to like not be able to help your own child. And time again, I'm reminded that I can't fix this. I'm fighting a brain. Like I am not in control. And that's been really hard for me because I definitely was a control type person. But as I realized as life goes on and TSC gets worse, I'm throwing my hands up. Like I will fight tooth and nail for that girl every day. And it was hard. I was angry the first couple of days, and then I was like, no, she needs to be here. This is good. And then they're like, nope, she's coming home. We put her on a new med. And I'm like, what? Because I'm like, is that safe? Is that okay? And then you see worse things when you're there. So it's not really good. And I'm not trying to ramble, but to me, putting people that have a mental illness and have that mental health issue that you can't see, like we said, it's not physical, you just throw them with the people that are in trouble, and it's different. They're not bad people, they're not bad kids that are looking and seeking for to steal or to destroy. Like this just happens to them and there's no control over it. And so I feel like they really get lost in the cracks.
Yeah, and you really made a good point there. And just, yeah, I think that anybody that's in a psych hospital has probably had unbelievable amounts of trauma and never know the story that led there. But I think, I saw my own daughter very similar with the threats to her life and, ended up using that as a tool of manipulation, which might be hard for people listening to understand. You kind of almost become like, this like numb to it in some ways. It becomes almost, I don't want to say a joke, but oh, this is being used this way. But then when there were times that there was some seriousness to it. So it's I think what Brooke and I are kind of both sharing is the ongoing trauma that can occur and kind of living on the edge, and the fact that the systems that are in place for this type of situation, while I am not here to criticize, or I'm just here to say they're not adequate for an individual that has the full, a situation like this where cognitively they might be functioning at the level of a 8 or 9-year-old, but they're in with older kids or kids that are at the same age, but their intellect's a little higher. And so that's one piece of it. And then there's the other piece that often the history of tuberous sclerosis and the connection with the clinic or the team that provides the close supervision of the neurological component is often not included in the loop, nor is the school, and I think in some cases social workers are therapists, but in a lot of situations that part is on the parent to integrate that and to make sure that everybody's communicating. Like Brooke shared, her daughter was taken off a medication with probably no communication with her, and I don't know for sure, but I know this happened to my daughter. There wasn't communication with her neurology team to know the history, to know about, the types of seizures she had, the vulnerability she had with a medication that could be a proconvulsant. And, I saw that happen repeatedly when my older daughter was going through a mental health crisis. She was bouncing from program to program, and each time, the meds might get changed, dropped, so it was like watching a slow car crash. Like you're running and you're trying to catch up with it, but it's like it's out of your hands. And so I think by talking about it, we just are kind of illustrating some of the holes. So we're up against holes, and we're forced to make decisions between a rock. Uh-oh, I just got told the video went offline. So hopefully this is recording, so we'll just keep talking. Um, okay, so anyways, this happened a little earlier. I'm going to go back into Zoom. But anyways, yeah, so we're between a rock and a hard place. There's really no great place, but we also know that okay, we're back. That we need a break with that the weight on the family. You know, we have other siblings and they're being impacted by the behaviors of our loved ones with tanned behaviors, and it becomes a whole, not just the individual, but the whole family unit. And a lot of time, energy, expense has gone into it, and you know, it tears you down over time. So um, it's like I would say ongoing family trauma. See whatever terminology you want to use. See PTSD. You know, you're kind of on the edge a lot. And I know personally, I've dealt with some PTSD ongoing issues. I'm not going to lie; that's an ongoing challenge that I have. And I think, you know, it's something that a lot of us walk through. Not to go too deep into that. Um, so I guess going back to each of our stories. So Brooke, Rain came back, and she, you know, she's still struggling, and you're still trying to figure out what to do. And why don't you talk a little bit about personally what you've done in terms of your own coping with this and your personal health? Because I think that's a piece of it too. Is when we can't help our kids in many ways here, we can help ourselves, and that's really important. Something that I found out way too late. You know, not really having time to think about it, being in cycles of trauma for years, and really kind of ignoring any internal processing. So, Brooke, why don't you talk for a little bit on that?
Jill, I totally understand that. Uh, So speaking of that, like she had come home. We followed up immediately with her, team in Cincinnati, and then they said, let's get her off of this, and we need to start, So they definitely took control of it really quick before it got out of hand. But here's how I have what Joel's saying. Like, I don't ever know where to start, because it doesn't just start where you start. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's time building up, like she said, with the PTSD and just different trauma you go through. And then at some point, you're just like, enough is enough. Like, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I am done, like, chasing my tail, being in this hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it. For me, I had a friend reach out for like a couple years and just tell me about this thing. And I'm like, no, it's all about a weight loss. Like, I didn't really understand what it was about. No, nor did I care to understand what I was, about to encounter and do. But there was one night specifically, I had made a post about her having insomnia, and I could buy groceries, and somehow in the morning they're all thrown away. I have 5 plates in the sink. All this ruckus is going on. I compare it to that movie, the Disney movie Kung Fu Panda, when the panda's like has to go on a diet and train to be a warrior, and he's like all in the cupboards, like finding whatever he can. That's a lot how Rain was at nighttime. Like, I would wake up to this incredible, crazy mess, and I'm like, what just happened? Like, what am I waking up to? Like,
Totally
and then
get it.
she doesn't really understand how to, like, read. Like, she's not, she's great at a lot of things, but numbers are not her thing. So she thinks all this food's old. I wake up to all this trash taken outside already because everything's old in the fridge. So, food gets wasted. So they're like, you need to lock your stuff. So I was just kind of at the point where it all had built up, and I'm like, listen, something's got to give. I got to be ahead of this. I got to be on top of this. My mental acuity, I was laying on the couch in fetal position, like crying every day, watching CSI, like putting all this stuff into my body that was just actually making me, because I do have like TSC and some stuff from it, I was actually like making a reality. So like everything I would see, I was like, oh, is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? And I was just filling my mind with like depressing. I can't even watch that stuff anymore because I feel like it's real to me, because some of it has come true,
Yep.
So I asked my friend, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I can't do this anymore. And so she set me up with the program that I'm on called Thrive. And I've been on it for 2 years. I've not stopped a day. The first day I didn't yawn, and I was like, all right, Rain, what are we doing today? and I have a son too. And so like I was just like ready to go. I wasn't the nap queen anymore. I wasn't filling my body with, caffeine liquid all day just to make myself still be tired or whatever. And I knew that I had to take care of myself because at some point when I had gotten those kidney tumors, I definitely was like not taking care of myself again. And they kind of said, Brooke, you either have to do this, do chemo or do radiation and your tumors will go back, or you have to do dialysis. So I was kind of like at that point again where I had to do something that was going to fill my nutritional gap and fill my body with great things. So then I could, in hopes, like just sleep one night or feel like I had a cleaner energy or whatever. So 2 years later, my life has transformed. I don't know where I would have been, honestly, without my 3 steps. It's 100 minerals and vitamins at 98% absorption that I take every day, along with my Afinitor, my medications prescribed. I ask the doctors, is this, I'm always saying, like, I'm not carrying a Medicaid. However, I ask the doctors, hey, look at this. What do you think? Is this okay for me? And for me, it's been incredible. My body's changed definitely as far as just my mindset. So even just like for me, I didn't do that for the weight or whatever. Everybody has a different reason for why they want to do something. For me, it was I needed to be present. I needed to be ready for these aggravated times. I needed to be ready. So like when she went to the hospital a couple weeks ago, the person I was before wouldn't have probably made it out of bed that whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have sat there, felt sad for myself, dwelled in it, and not said, okay, what's next? What can we do? What can we do to change this? That wouldn't have been me. I would have definitely laid there, felt bad for myself, and I don't know. It wouldn't have worked. But being a hairstylist after quarantine, we had a ton of clients. I had to move the first day people over because I didn't get out of the hospital until 8:30 in the morning. And there was no way I could work a 13-hour day. But I did only get 2 hours of sleep that day. Still managed to talk to the caseworker there, like different people, run around, get stuff that I needed to, get everybody switched. And I literally got up, went to work, and not that it never happened, but this TSC goes on and life has to go on too. And so that's the most thing that I want to say that I've realized with this. Like, I don't have to live in that fear. I don't have to live that, yes, I have TSC, but it doesn't have me. Like, I have found a way to give my body a better quality of life for me personally, like we're saying, our personal experiences. Yep. So for me, it's definitely changed my mindset, and it makes me I just keep going. I told my friend one day, I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this. She's like, just do it. And I have. And I'm really actually thankful for where I'm at, because I don't think I would have ever made it out a couple of years ago if this would have happened then.
Yeah, I always, whenever I've heard you share some of this before, and I always get a little chill when you tell me that, because I can so relate. I think I wouldn't be the person, not that I'm anything wonderful, but I wouldn't be
Right.
here in this capacity today without the experiences I've had. So I have to take all that into account. But yeah, I found that, I was put on, I took meds, psych meds, and again, I wasn't stopping and dealing with it. I was just band-aiding it for many years. And, and I went into addiction treatment. And even when I was there, I was staying sober, but I was still on a bunch of meds, and I just couldn't make that connection with myself, with personally, internally. And, I think I started to started to really want that and feel like I needed that. I didn't know how I was going to get that, but at random, well, not random, my physician, my family or regular physician mentioned I was on a whole bunch of meds. I was having terrible gastrointestinal problems. And she's like, well, maybe it's the meds. And I had thought, there I am on a bunch of meds. And, when I was in treatment, they often add a lot of medication. And I'm not saying that that's always the case or is the case anymore, but it was the case for me. So I ended up on a bunch of meds and, still quote unquote sober, but not really feeling like I had that, like I felt really numb and disconnected. And so I started coming down off the medication slowly. And I had always been really curious about cannabis. It actually was part of my addiction not that it kind of was a facilitator for awareness for me, realizing kind of the depth of my the mental health issues I had. I will say that. So it was a tool for me to really get kind of up and above and over the trauma and be able to process some of it. And There was a stigma with that because I was still involved in recovery programs, and there's a lot of black and white thought about that type of a looking at it as more of a recreational substance that can be dangerous. And I think there is a component of that. If you're not understanding how to use it properly, there's a huge learning curve. But I was just like, wow, I felt like a whole new person kind of, and I was really able to do some work. I hate to say, it sounds so corny, but do a lot of really deep work and go back and process stuff and um, look at my own role in a lot of the things that happened. And it becomes like a family, like an enmeshed, real complicated mess. And so sorting out those pieces, along with the fact that my kids still had it wasn't like I could just stop and go into a treatment and forget about the kids. Though there were times, honestly, that I did want to do that. I wanted to run away and just leave the whole situation in someone else's hands. Thank God I didn't. And it was like you said, it was putting one foot in front of the other, a day at a time. And I think through my own process with the medications, I started to really look at what my kids are taking, and really knowing that probably all these medications at the same time were going to have a toll on their system. And that's been part of the reason that I've kind of ventured more into the cannabinoid medicine area, with the podcast, if anybody's wondering, and cross paths with a cannabis advocate pioneer, Mike Robinson. And he really, I remember the first podcast he was on, he educated me about cannabinoid medicine. I never even heard the term. I think I probably almost laughed when he first said it. I was like, what is that? And he'd been able to have success with many patients in the compassion program with epilepsy and autism, and using cannabis oils, and very quite a learning curve. So what I'm saying here is I'm not recommending that you go out and start doing this at all. It's something that I haven't even really been able to implement much with my own children. However, I am stepping up that, and I've found local resources to start that process. But it's risky when your children have been, or anybody's been on medication for a long time, to stop that and to change to a whole new way of treating yourself is a big learning curve. But I've made some small changes with my son and noticed pretty quickly a difference implementing some cannabinoid medicine. And I will do a little evangelism here about, we have an endocannabinoid system, which is a major physiological system in the body, and it's responsible for homeostasis in the body, and it's responsible for homeostasis, keeping all the other organs going. And I really feel like there needs to be a lot of more research, and again, this ties into the legality on using this as early as possible with people that have a condition where their endocannabinoid system is going to become deficient, because it happens, you take a hit to the endocannabinoid system, and then everything else kind of shifts a little, and the other systems compensate. And I'm not a doctor, but it by making a small change or supplementing with cannabinoid medicine, you can, this is theory, stave off a lot of what is considered systemic, like fibromyalgia or migraine headaches, are both considered to be endocannabinoid deficient syndromes. And so we're all learning a lot about this, and nobody really knows a ton, and other countries are far ahead of us. But what I've found is the people that are on the ground, that have been working with patients and watching them like day in and day out, like Brooke and I do with our kids, you learn a lot by living with someone, and you're making changes in the moment a lot of times. I think Brooke can probably speak to this. I won't make a medication change, but I will evaluate my kids to see if they look like something might be, certain things. I don't know. you can kind of, you start to be able to read them. I think every mother reads their own kids, but you're kind of even at a different level of reading your kid. So I don't know. I think that um, it's an exciting possibility, and it gives me a lot of hope to think about utilizing this tool, and what Brooke shared about Thrive too, because these are things that people might kind of shun or think, oh my gosh, and I did too, up until probably like 6 months ago. I was like, that's nothing. That's, we got to go with the traditional medicine. We got to talk to the doctors. We got to do it this way. And like, just opening my mind a little to think, well, there's other ways that people have done to do this, and um, there it can be done. And I think if you've got young kids and you're listening, exploring it now and not making any major changes, exploring some other forms of medicine. And part of it is that we have a traditional medicine system that really covers things. Health insurance and expense is another piece. So if you have a lot of money, you can explore these, because often they're not covered by insurance. So these tools like cannabinoid medicine, making it more affordable and accessible, and something like Thrive. I remember thinking, like, when I heard about Thrive, like, oh well, that I can't do that. It's way too expensive. That's ridiculous that people are, But now I think, well, it's a lot less than pharma. It's just the fact that pharma is covered by insurance. So, here we have these things that we have learned to use, but we're not given any financial support for that. And we actually are watching, polypharmacy issues mount, and I could probably prove that on paper if I had to. But again, I'm not a doctor. And yeah, so that's kind of my spin on providing some hope. And I think yeah, I'm going to let Brooke talk a little. Got any thoughts to say on that?
So yeah, a little bit. So like I never okay, so Jill and I both are people that we don't think we're better than anybody, or what we found is what works for everyone. However, we just want to be a better version of ourselves.
Good
So
point.
whatever you find for yourself that works for you, that leads you into better gut health, better, taking care of your organs, or taking better care of yourself, just like she was saying, gastrointestinal issues. Like, for whatever it is that you're dealing with, if you find something that you're like, you know what, that could help me, it doesn't always have to be from, FDA approved, or, we're saying, obviously talk to your doctor, be aware of what you're taking with what you have already, your underlying lining conditions. When I connect people with Thrive and stuff, like, we want to know, are you on heart medications? Are you on thyroid? It's important to know, because I want to know how, there's different ways that you take it, because you have to take your thyroid medication first. So we do make sure that, we follow the rules that what your doctors want from you, because we don't want you to cut yourself off from, what has been helping you. We're very on top of making sure you're connected to a nurse practitioner or the person with their doctorate, because they know more of what they're talking about. I'm not going to pretend to know that. I'm a hairstylist. I've never had any kind of medical. All I know is I know about way more about kidneys than I should. I know way more about TSC than I ever thought that I would. When I first got diagnosed, I wanted nothing to do with the TSC community. Being an advocate for 8 years now, for the Alliance, I have found just like more resources, being able to help other people, direct them, like, hey, when they call me, if they're going to start, on a drug, I can say, hey, this is good for you, or hey, this is what this will do. You should contact this person. So it's actually like helping me help my child too, because I need to know like these different avenues. And that's kind of what Jill and I have been talking about. Just like, I need to know, like, how's Rain's life going to look like after 18, or what are we looking at? And I'm just like you, Joe. Like, I don't try to medicate my children or take them off of whatever they're on, or say that what I think is right. I might implement, like, hey, if she needs some vitamin B6 today for mood support, we might do that. But vitamin B12, no, it'll make her go crazy because it's too much, like, so, well, either way. So just different things that I've learned that, just to help her like cope a little bit better, or that I know, like, hey, maybe she's lacking vitamin D. Like, that kind of stuff is something you should know, and you should learn about your child. And more of us have that more information. We have Google, which always isn't always the best informational leg for everyone, but you can really educate. And what we're saying to you is, like, educate yourself on something that you feel would work for you. Don't jump into anything. Don't just be, I am
No
not
sudden
where
moves.
Jill is with that. Yeah, like I see what it's doing for her and what her life, except I haven't educated myself enough to know how to implement it into my life right now. Doesn't mean that I won't. It just means that I need to be more educated. But we all have to do that for ourselves, whether it's learning to deal with a family member. Like a lot of my family, they love my daughter, but a lot of them don't know how to handle that when it happens. And you know what? Sometimes I don't even know how to handle that. I don't know how to have 3 kids with it, let alone having one. I couldn't imagine. So we're all from different walks of life, and we're all at a different point in our life of the trauma we've been through. What we have or have not been through is your personal business. But just know that you have different avenues. There are other options to maybe help you just get through life a little bit easier. Like I said, not cure or medicate, but definitely like just give you a different path or a different light at the end of the tunnel than maybe what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this all speaks to too, just the fact that we are kind of taking on a lot of roles that require, life and death decisions, and we are not really trained for it. I mean, we become trained for it, but it speaks to the burden on the family across healthcare. I think that when I came up with the idea of Tower of Babel, that's kind of what it seems like to me. You're going to this specialist, and they're great, fantastic, and they're treating your whatever symptoms are related to that organ or that system, and providing care in that realm. And then but they kind of get to their Truman Show, and they hit the end of their window, and then you're going to another specialist again, who's wonderful. We have some of the most amazing doctors in this country, and but I think there's just these disconnects that a condition like TSC, that's so complicated across so many different parts of the body and the mind, almost forces, oppresses the entire family system. And, I think that's not just true of TSC, our healthcare system. I think as kids get older and, their path diverts even a little off of a typical path, they're really significantly more at a disadvantage as time passes, because the supports fall away as you get closer to 21. And then after 21, if you're not your child's guardian, and we were just talking about this before we came live, that's a whole new world of pain, because that is a situation with my oldest daughter. And while, I understand why she's her own guardian and why we haven't been able to do that yet, it kind of snuck up on us. And maybe she will be okay as her own guardian, but it's been a rocky roller coaster, and I wished I'd explored it earlier. But again, we can't second guess. But just to demonstrate here the types of being between a rock and a hard place repeatedly with these situations where you're kind of putting out brush fires, you're living in cycles of like extreme stress, watching unbelievable things happen, like what Brooke shared about on the side of the road. That picture's in my head. I remember driving down the road and watching my daughter in the back seat, flinging herself around, banging her head till she's got a bloody nose, and like things that you never imagined you'd be experiencing. And then you go in and you try to explain it to the healthcare system, and they feel bad, but in a lot of ways, as it goes on, they don't have the answers. They don't know what to do with these behavioral situations. And in many cases, there's pushback on the family, well, the family's, got this going on or this. And that really I found to be exceptionally challenging too, because I think we're all doing the best we can with whatever situation we have, whether we're aware, whatever, vibration we're vibrating at, we might not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like with a double whammy. Like, oh, now you're telling me that I'm not a good enough parent, on top of the fact that my kids might die at any minute. Come on. So it was,
No,
yeah. You could
that's
probably.
crazy. They told me, they're like, so Rain would like you to spend more time with her. And I'm like, huh? Like, she gets all my time. Wait, when did we discuss how my parenting is? Because if anyone that knows me knows that she is like, I mean, my son, when she went to that, hospital, he's like, finally, like, you helped her, like you're getting her help, you're making the, and it was hard for me, but I knew like he's just tired. And so like he doesn't get all that attention. You know, she's jealous of like, mom, they can wash their own hair, just come home. You don't have to give them a haircut. They can get one later. Like, she's literally jealous of everyone in my life. So I've now went down to 3 days because we can't get the services we need, you know, all the time. Like, I do have great providers in my life, in her life, that are willing to literally take, you know, they love Rain. They're like, we're going to fight for her. We're going to fight with you, which I'm very fortunate for. So finding those resources, I'm telling you, as a parent, I've had to find them myself. So luckily, I used to work with people with, uh, for a place with, you know, caregiver type thing where I would spend the night and then give them their meds in the morning and then they would go to day hab. So I did that at a young, when I was doing hair all day for 10 hours, I'd get off, I'd work from 9 to 8, get off, go to sleep till 11, then go to work till 8 o'clock in the morning till that person left for their day hab and do like an overnight shift where I could sleep. And I did that
Wow.
because I wanted to know what her life will be like someday. I wanted to know what that was like to be in the home, to be in that. And so because I built that relationship with that person, they're now Rain's providers. So they've really like stepped out and really helped me. We were on like a 2-hour Zoom the other day, going through her assessment, figuring out what exactly, being specific, what needs. She goes to an adaptive learning school that I had a friend refer me to. And so she was on the Zoom too. She's telling me how she is at school. So we're trying to get her from all avenues in life of like what we see differently, because we feel like she does need more care than what she's given. You know, and there's only so much of me that I can do that. And so we were probably on 3 meetings one day. I feel like I had one like every couple hours with the insurance. Well, what do you need from us? I need more behavioral health. I need ongoing. I need not just saying she's fine now. I think she's good. She doesn't need coping skills. No, she needs coping skills two to 3 times a week the rest of her life. She needs to learn how to like manage her triggers, manage her that. You know, she needs some like deep therapy that I can't. I'm not educated to give her that. So in all of this whole video, I am not a doctor. Like we said, we're not. But we've learned a lot from being in the trauma, and we want to pave the way for people to not have to go through that or not be just misled or misunderstood or, hey, you're not paying attention to your kid when they don't talk to you, you know, and tell you like, what are you doing with your child? And then after I said, are you kidding? And I kind of went off and I'm like, you know what? And she's like, okay, so I believe your mom 150%, Rain. I'm pretty sure that you need to just like let your mom have other people in her life because, you know, when you are, you know, with other people, and I am a hairstylist and I'm an aunt and I'm this and I'm, you know, I'm Talon's mom too. Like I have to be, and still, like you said, relationships. Like I don't know how my boyfriend's still hanging out because the first marriage I was like, I either got to take care of my husband or my child. So I guess it's going to be my child because, and then I just chose that because I knew it was really hard on both of us, you know?
It is. I
So
mean, it's almost you're set up in so many ways for something to go wrong, you know,
mhm.
over and over. And
And you kind of live like that. It's taken me, my mindset, and I don't know about you, but I know maybe you do too, with the trauma and stuff.
mhm.
I had post-it notes on my mirror. I tell myself every day something positive. I just downloaded an app to tell me, like, I need to be told all day long, like, not everything bad is going to happen. It's okay. Because you're just so used to the chaos, you don't know how to live honestly without the chaos.
So true. So true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been a big part of, just almost expecting things to go wrong and living
Mhm.
on the edge and learning how not to do that. And, I know people know I'm a runner. That's a physical outlet has been huge for me. I don't feel I used to judge myself. Oh, I'm taking this time to go run every day or whatever. But that is like, it's been a grounding experience for me. And, I'm probably somewhere on the autism spectrum because I'm super compulsive about it. But it's one of those things that's really kind of served me well. And having something like that, I think, um, to take, to do no matter what, um, that you're going to be able to blow off some steam or whatnot has been a big part. But yeah, I kind of got off sidetracked there. But yeah, it's
No, but you're
just
right. You're
constant.
right. You're fine.
It's
Yeah.
constant stuff. And and like you said, on the relationships, I'm fortunate to have a partner who's very patient, willing to work with me, and willing to, like, having someone kind of come in from the outside. I had him on the show, and look at things from a perspective that I think we forget. I, I had, you don't realize, like, you heat up a frog in a frying pan slowly. It doesn't, it's warm and it slowly gets, it's going to get hot. It doesn't even realize it. I think that's what I know happened in our lives is, things got real bad. get really extreme to the point where, I didn't even realize it was happening until someone from the outside comes in and is like, well,
Mhm.
holy crap. So I don't know. There's all kinds of layers of this. And I think one thing, that the moms out there is to be realistic about it, I guess. But it doesn't mean that your path is going to be the same. And I think compared to when my daughter or my kids were diagnosed, a lot has come a lot of awareness about the mental health and the behavioral aspects have come to the forefront. So there's much more awareness in all over the place about mental health issues, and that's a positive. So that, I'm not going to say all things are negative in the mental health system. I think just really think there's a lot of disconnects and the burden on the family and the entire family. And then here's the other piece that I was going to say, Brooke, is my daughter. I'm watching my oldest daughter really have a hard time with self-esteem, and it's just so hard to watch. I just, to watch your own child kind of not like herself and to really look for something about herself to like and finding things that, you know, aren't going to get her a job or aren't going to move her forward. And yeah, it's like this double whammy. So then, you're trying to help your child with their future, and how do you imagine a future? And I think that's an important thing too. Keep putting that out there. What is my life going to look like when my child gets to this age? And what can I do now to make it less to make it better, to plan.
Mhm.
I think there's just a lot of times we don't have the time or energy to plan because we're dealing with a status seizure or a kidney issue or a school issue, and we don't have time to think about the future. And who wants to? It sounds awful. So,
Yeah, I agree.
but yeah, I found so much. I hate to be so negative because yeah, it's very hard. But I find these just beautiful insight and love from my children and uniqueness, and they each have their own I don't want to say gifts, but their own personalities that I'm starting to see, and their own strength. And we have good days and bad days, but they deserve a quality of life. They deserve a
They
quality
do.
of life, and that's really distressing to me. A group home where my daughter is, I think they're doing a great job, but it's not ideal. It's not what I wanted for my daughter. And it's almost like you're ended up in a different caste system, and you're forced to say, okay, well, I guess that's how it's going to be, and that's just the way it is. And I don't know how many times, I say that, and that's true, but it's okay to hope and to want and to push for
Mhm.
better, I think.
Right. And I'm not saying like what I'm doing now is going to ever change, everything around me. However, I need to work on what's in my four walls. And if I can even just do that and be a light for somebody and show them, this is possible. You can have TSC and suffer from, different avenues or the trauma or not have or not have TSC like you, and just come from a different perspective and just say, okay, well, I've held on to this hope for just like, I remember her first goal was like, I want her to eat with a spoon. I mean, we've come so far since then. So if you look back, like
Right.
those little small attainable goals are what I'm trying to do in my adult life. Like, what can we do for this week? What can we do for, but I don't go jump ahead because I don't know what's to come. I mean, nobody really does, but small attainable goals, you don't get as upset because they're reachable. When you reach for like too far ahead with TSC, you can get kind of lost and hopeless. So I've just realized to really just take it one day, 1 hour, 1 minute sometimes. What are we going to do for lunch? Well, we're not going to think about that at 9 o'clock. Like, we're going to wait and see how 9 to noon goes. So
So
it's
true.
just those small little increments you have to do some days. And I just really try to implement those more and just realize like my self care is so important on how I take care of her because you cannot fill from an empty cup. So
So true. Yep. And I think
pour
that's
from an
probably,
empty cup, not fill. Yeah.
you can't, yeah, I think, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was pouring from an empty cup, and there was nothing left, and I had nothing left. So, yeah.
yeah. And I think I feel like I was talking to Brooke a few weeks ago. I feel like you end up as a parent almost getting a component of tan yourself, I think. And I'm not to
Yeah.
minimize any way,
And
please.
no, it's
But I
real. And
feel
I'm
like
like,
I
oh my
have
gosh,
it
is this?
when you talk, I
Yeah.
feel like I definitely, it does do that. And yeah, so anyways, I think that is pretty much, we've covered everything. I do want to give a shout out to our forest bathing product that we are selling on Indiegogo. It is a CBD, CBG terpene blend, and we're getting really good reviews. It's really good. You know, I'm not treat or cure, but soothe pain, depression, arthritis, migraines. We've heard really good feedback on those types of things. If you're interested, contact me, admin at TSC Talks. Go to our website. Go to our Indiegogo. I'm all over the place. And yeah, check it out. What we're trying to do is bring products that are not, it's not FDA approved, but it is formulated by Mike Robinson, who has a deep understanding of cannabinoid medicine, and probably understands the chemistry more than anybody that I've talked to. So it's really a cool product. And yeah, and that's about it. And Brooks Thrive, if you're interested in that, reach out to her, because that's been a really good tool. And I've heard that from other people too. That is it seems like you're really upregulating your endocannabinoid system in lots of components of that program. So I'm impressed. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for doing this. I think we're going to wrap it up. Honestly, I don't think we filmed for more than like 25 minutes, but I will produce this and get it right up, because I think you did a great job.
You did too, Jill.